Another day in the NBA Finals Game 4, and we're going to do what we've done this entire season on this channel. We're going to dig in, compare my projections to some of the industry leaders out there, in particular, our friends at Stochastic, going to see what they have data-wise in terms of their projections, in terms of their ownership. We're going to hop over to Unabated, see what the best market-based bets are right now. Of course, using their premium data, according to some of the top bettors in the world. We'll hop back to Stochastic. We're going to DFS sim. By the end of this video, you know all of my must plays. Actually, all of my splash plays and the industry's must plays. So let's get into it here. I fucked up the opening line. God, you know what? You don't do these videos, so the cadence slows down a little bit. Yesterday, couldn't even get going on StreamYard for my best ball drafts I had to do for Stochastic and the Splash Play channel. But today, StreamYard's back up, and of course, now I can mediocre my way through an NBA slate. But of course, in this one, we do have another game between the Pacers and the Thunder. This one in Indiana once again. Indiana up 2-1, which seems like a surprise. The spread this time, 5 points heavier, going towards OKC with a 6-point spread favoring the Thunder right now. 226.5 implied points. That gives the Thunder 116.3 implied. Pacers 110.3 implied. So that's what we're facing down here. Key observations from last game, and I should pull up the popcorn machine here so you guys have some sort of visual aid. Some chalk players or guys that look like they're going to be decent value plays, maybe not super chalk, but Isaiah Hartenstein picked up some good ownership last slate. He was a player, played only 18 minutes. Chet Holmgren ends up making the winning lineup. That push-pull dynamic, the Thunder do not want to play these two guys together, even though it actually has been a spot where, according to the plus-minus numbers, it has been a positive plus-minus for the Thunder. I think actually one of their better groupings of two men is playing Hartenstein and Holmgren together the small amount of time they played together in the series so far. Thunder refused to go big. Wouldn't be crazy at this point, I think, with the series being 2-1, if you started Hartenstein again and just went to what worked so well the entire regular season, which was starting the two big men. For whatever reason, Mark Daigneault does, or I don't know what, that is not how you say his name. Mark Daigneault, I've never said his name out loud. So that's really the biggest thing. I've heard it said on broadcast, and yet my brain not able to say it in a way that makes sense. Point being for him, though, like he's making these tweaks that kind of happen a lot with these coaches when they are trying to prove they're the biggest boy genius in the world. Going small against Indiana, he did in the regular season as well. For whatever reason, they seem to think you have to go small versus Indiana. But I think at this point, when you are down a game again and you're facing being down 3-1 on the road, I think playing Hartenstein, starting him would not be crazy. He didn't do anything last game to deserve it, but that's one thing to watch out for, I suppose, just based on the fact that clearly, it's not working for the Thunder right now, even though it feels like they should have won. In my opinion, it feels like the Thunder should be up 3-0. I don't know that the Pacers have been good enough for it to be anything that is any different there. Besides that, last game, Mathurin getting the big minutes pulled directly from Andrew Nembhard. We've talked a lot about that push-pull dynamic they have. The second half in particular, you can see that Nembhard's minutes tend to be coming, or not Nembhard, Neesmith's minutes tend to be coming directly at the, going directly to Benedict Mathurin here. So basically, when Neesmith came out, it ended up being Mathurin coming in. Mathurin kept Neesmith off the court. Then it ends up being Neesmith coming back in to close out the third quarter. Fourth quarter, same thing. A lot of Mathurin. We end up having Neesmith closing because he's a better defender. But point being, push-pull dynamic with those guys as well were some of the key rotational things I observed. So Hartenstein, something maybe has to change there, but he didn't play well enough to go out of my way and say, I think he's going to start for sure. But I think that's one thing to watch out for. Mathurin going nuts off the bench last game. So did TJ McConnell. That going back, flipping towards the starters a little bit more, maybe getting more Neesmith, getting more Nembhard production. That's why he was on the brain for me. That's one thing I would think to look at today more, because I think people will point chase McConnell and Mathurin off the bench after last game. Benedict Mathurin, I also learned from some of the social media stuff out there, apparently very into baking, which, you look at Benedict Mathurin, you look at a guy who's like a relentless usage guy, not a willing defender necessarily at this point in his career. Baking would not be the first thing that would come to mind for me. I feel like for that, I would think of I don't know, a stretch four kind of big man, good rim protector. It comes to mind for baking. Like a Rudy Gobert, I could see being good at banking. Another guy with French origins. I don't know why that goes to mind. Either way, let's go to the projections here. We've talked about just spiel here about what my general thoughts about the series and little things that will matter for how I make lineups today. But SGA, top projected guy again here, not a big surprise. 51% is the expected ownership for the flex position right now. At captain, Stochastic expects to have him at 24% as well. I am with the field mostly for SGA in the flex. Way under at captain. I'm getting a lot more of another guy at captain. That's taking me away from SGA. For SGA, he had a little bit of a downside game last time out. putting up just 43.5 fantasy points in 42 minutes. That's his worst per minute production, I think, of the entire playoffs so far. Still 31% usage in that game, still 24 real life points. So I would not say the sky is falling for SGA, but I do think at this point being more critical of him with that price tag up again at 13.8. I think getting a little bit less SGA makes sense, even though I do expect to make a lineup more often than not. But SGA, high price tag, a little bit under the field for me in the flex, a lot under the field for me at captain. And I think, again, because that price tag is so high, if he's going to be 25, 26, 33% owned, whatever the case may be here, that's stochastical and projecting when things lock. It's a lot of money being spent at captain for SGA when you might have a similar ceiling. I mean, I think I'll have a similar ceiling for Halliburton. You could have close enough to it where you get another guy at captain who has 40 fantasy points as opposed to the 50 plus that SGA puts up. It ends up being a thing where you need Jalen Williams a captain, Holmgren a captain, Siakam, whoever you want, you can make that case for. There's a lot of ways that SGA doesn't make it a captain. So you want to be with the field, 24% is the expected ownership right now. Wouldn't shock me for closer to 30 when the slate locks. But I think for SGA, going above the field in SGA captain feels maybe like a foolish move. Just given how high that price tag is. You'll have no flexibility at all. Tyrese Halliburton, 49% for me in the flex, 32% for stochastic ownership. Stochastic also only projecting Halliburton for 7% ownership at captain, and that seems really low. I'm getting him at 26% in the semi-round before the show. So you guys know if you watch the show, again, I mentioned it every time because I'd like to think there's some maybe underlying takeaways for you guys out there. At least, if you know where my data is biased, you make your decisions accordingly. Not been a big Halliburton fan throughout the entire regular season, through most of the playoffs as well. I've gotten in some slates when the matchup aligns well and the Vegas total is where it needs to be. And the minutes are kind of in a way that favor Halliburton. I get him a little bit more. But the last game, I got a ton of Halliburton. It worked out really well. He ended up putting up over 55 fantasy points. I think he got to 57. He got to 57.3 fantasy points in that last game in about 36 minutes and change. Halliburton went nuts last game. My projections favoring him again here. I'm cool getting more in the field of Halliburton. My projection is not really a big stand, only 0.4 more than, or 0.7 more than Stochastic has at a 44.4 projection compared to 43.7. But I'm above on him, lower on SGA. So getting more Halliburton naturally kind of makes sense to me. It's a really big stand for me at captain, be getting 26% with the field at 7. But I'm not buying that stochastic number, given the fact that Halliburton just put up really high score the last game. There's a lot of recency bias in these NBA slates. And I think you'll see Mathurin get played a good amount. I think you'll see McConnell get played a good amount for those guys being great last game. But Halliburton was also really great. So I think people will play him too at 11-4. Frankly, SGA had the dud game. I don't think people are going to fade SGA, but I don't think it's a guarantee that they're going to be low on Halliburton like stochastic seems to project. Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren put up, I believe, very similar scores last game. They both put up 38.5 DK points, so a higher usage for Jalen Williams at 32%. In fact, out-usaged SGA in that last spot. Don't expect that to hold game to game, but is something that's noteworthy. For Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams here, they seem like similar plays based on the ownership for stochastic. 41% for Williams, 39.3% for Chet Holmgren. Reading is hard for me today. You don't do streams for one day, your brain starts to melt. That's, I think, what science says. For Jalen Williams, a little bit above the field. For Chet Holmgren, a little bit above the field. And Holmgren's another guy. I really have not gotten a lot of Holmgren, really, even in the playoffs, the entire regular season, besides when the other Thunder guys were out. 8,200 is a nice price tag for him, especially when you have SGA coming up to 13.8. So I'm getting Holmgren above the field. In terms of captain, I'm getting Holmgren above the field as well. 13% there and change. Fields at 11. For Jalen Williams, flat with the field, 16% for me, 16% for Stochastic's captain ownership right now. Holmgren and Jalen Williams look great. I think they certainly look better if you're not playing SGA, but Holmgren is just cheap. 8,200 is a little bit too cheap for him, given the fact that, again, they've not wanted to put Hartenstein and Holmgren together. After Holmgren's big game last time out, maybe people go to Holmgren a little bit too much. That does make Hartenstein more theoretically appealing. And I'm getting a lot of Hartenstein, too. I don't know if I'm going to get as much. We'll get there in a moment. Pascal Siakam looking like a flat fade for me here. Only 9% ownership. My top 150. Fields at 32. In terms of captain ownership, I assume, wow. Did I not? I didn't get any captain at all for Siakam, which feels a little bit scary, I would say. Yeah, I got no Siakam at captain. Look, he's not grading out well. To me, it's really the main thing. A 34-point projection. Stochastic has him at 37.5. Salary is pretty high at 9,800. I would certainly favor Holmgren. I've got him straight up in the projections. I would favor Jalen Williams. I've got him straight up in the projections. There's a gap certainly between Siakam and Nembhard, Siakam and Miles Turner. but it's not enough for me to get there. And the field seems like they're going to be owning him a good amount with 32% expected ownership. If you're going to say Halliburton is going to be really chalky, I think going to Siakam and less ownership would be a logical thing to do. But if Siakam and Halliburton are going to be the same ownership, I'm happy to just die on the ship with Halliburton, given the fact he is the better player, the star player, and really going up 3-1 here. Like, I think the Pacers will do everything they can to get that, because then you only need to win one more game. And I know that's like sounds really rudimentary to say it like that, but like that's how these NBA teams think. Like, you get that other win at home. Now you just have to steal one game over the next three, including when you have another home game against a team that you know is better. Like, I think the Pacers and Rick Carlisle's kind of mindset are going to be really pushing them to win tonight at all costs if they can. And I think that falls more to Halliburton, but certainly if Halliburton fails, Siakam should be there. I just like you're getting the ownership benefit of that, given the fact that Siakam projects so much worse for me. Andrew Nembhard had some foul trouble last game, still got to, I think, 33 minutes. He got to 33.5 minutes, only 13.5 DK points, 12% usage in that game. Really down from his performance in the playoffs, where we talked about a few weeks ago. He was putting up at one point about 1 fantasy point per minute. Now it's down to, I think, 0.8. Nembhard down to 0.83 fantasy points a minute. Still at 58% true shooting, which is fine. Nembhard's not a bad player. He's just losing usage pretty meaningfully right now. Much like Aaron Nesmith as well, a guy who put up under a 10% usage rate when he was out there last game. The ball's just consolidating more for Halliburton, in particular for Siakam as a secondary option. It has in previous games of the series for Miles Turner. Last game a little bit less so. He only put up about 20% usage in that game. But TJ McConnell off the bench, high usage at 35%, Mathurin at 33%. Expecting it to flow a little bit more back to normal and Nembhard to get a few more shots up is not a crazy thing. I do have Nembhard projected about 1 fantasy point higher than Stochastic does. So 32% for me in the flex, feels at 26. He's not a sexy play. If he puts up 13 again, you're absolutely fucked. But projection-wise, 13 does feel like the lower band of outcomes for him. Playoff usage is a hard thing to pin down. So Nembhard is not getting shots up, playing quality defense for an entire game. That's a pretty decent likelihood. But he's out there for so many minutes that you kind of do want to play him, especially like they played him 33.5 minutes when he had 5 fouls for a large portion of that game. He lost minutes in the first half because he picked up 3 pretty early. But for Nembhard, they do want to play him a lot. Miles Turner, getting the usage last game, came down a good amount. He was about 28% usage the first 2 games. Was out at 19% and change, almost 20 in the last game. For Turner, though, he is a player that it feels like there's more meat on the bone for him if he can hit some shots, in particular from 3. I'm not getting Turner at all. He and Siakam are really big fades for me. 11% exposure compared to 25% in Stochastic's numbers. Captain, I presume I'm also not getting much Miles Turner, if any. You're getting 0.7% Miles Turner in my top 150 fields at 5% and change. I am low on Turner. I am low on Siakam. These are really obvious blind spots to me. The projections just don't support him for me, so I won't be there today. Ownership discount-wise, you're really not getting a lot of these guys. That's all I could say for it. But the projection for Miles Turner for me is low and about 2 fantasy points lower than Stochastic. I don't love that. Like, I don't love being totally out on Turner. But there's a good chance for me tonight that unless I force him in manually, and I did that last game and it just didn't work out well, he could be due for a big game. I guess that would be it. But man, just really big fades for you data-wise on Siakam and Turner. Aaron Nesmith, too cheap at 5,800, even though the 29-minute projection is pretty aggressive, given the fact he played 22 last game. It also wasn't a situation either where Nesmith and Benedict Mathurin are competing for the same 48 minutes. I mean, they are to some extent, but they didn't play 48 minutes combined. They played about 45 minutes combined. And I'll pull up the popcorn machine again because I shouldn't keep one screen up the whole time. I should know these things from doing these streams for an entire year, but you know what, man? It's the end of the season. We're in summer vacation mode basically at this point. So Benedict Mathurin here played some minutes alongside Nesmith in this part. When Nesmith first came out, we didn't see Mathurin come in. It was Obi Toppin and Ben Shepherd coming in for Nesmith and Siakam respectively. Actually, that wouldn't be respectively. It was Ben Shepherd coming in for Nesmith, Toppin coming in for Siakam. But basically here, Mathurin at this point becomes a pivot to Nesmith. The second half, they're straight splitting minutes. I mean, right down to the exact minute, in fact. First half, not so much. So I would say that Nesmith, to me, is your pivot to Mathurin. People are going to go to Mathurin today. Mathurin's price tag's coming up. He's not going to be quite as good of a value as he was last time, where he was one of the obvious best values on the board in my data and probably everybody else's data as well. This time, I think going to Nesmith has some utility. Him hitting some threes, him getting some more shots up. It just seems like he's withered away in a way that doesn't make sense for a guy who was really a lights-out shooter all regular season, all playoffs as well. So Neesmith, I think a player that matters a good amount in the slate because he will be your leverage against ownership that comes to Mathurin. It's happy in the data because Matherin's projections probably won't look fantastic, but the field will play Mathurin more than they probably should because he's gone off the bench. I mean, a couple times in the playoffs in a really meaningful way, but obviously last time broke the slate, wanted a captain and all that. Alex Caruso getting good usage off the bench, getting a good amount of minutes as well. Played 30, I think, last time out. 32 minutes last game for Alex Caruso. For him, again, really simple play here at 6,400. Not a sexy value play, mid-tier play. Certainly don't love the fact that I'm getting so much more Neesmith than Caruso. Obviously, I have Neesmith better projected, reflecting the longer-term sample size of how these guys have played the entire season and their usage rates in the playoffs as well. But Caruso at 6,400, I think, honestly, he should be higher owned than Neesmith. Obviously, I get their different price tags by a little bit. $600 savings going from Caruso to Neesmith. But Caruso's a better play, I think, with basically just what we've seen in the series so far. Obviously, game to game, I want to take the risk on a Neesmith here because he's an electric three-point shooter. If he starts to hit some shots, things can start to look a little bit better for him compared to how it's been the entire series. Yeah, that's really it for Neesmith. I think he's a better play, but it's a lot of ownership for him when Caruso is going to be this low. Isaiah Hartenstein played 18 minutes last game. I have concerns about the minutes overall. Stochastic dropped him to a 19.6-minute projection, which seems fair. Again, you have a faint chance that he could start, but you need to know that tonight, so I'd be paying attention until you get the starter announcement because it's not working for the Thunder, even though it feels like they should win these games. And it does take sort of a steady hand to stick with not starting Hartenstein when, again, it worked so well the entire regular season. It's been a surprise to me, and I think a lot of people out there, that Hartenstein's not playing real minutes alongside Holmgren that worked really well for these guys. But that said, for Hartenstein, 50% flex ownership right now for me. Fields at 30. In terms of captain ownership, I got Hartenstein and 10%, Fields at 5. I don't love that either. I would feel a lot better about Hartenstein as a play if he's starting, but then the ownership would come up. But there's utility for him. Stick the same thing as last time out. You don't play him with Holmgren. I was right about that. Holmgren directly pulled minutes from Hartenstein last game. If Hartenstein plays really well today, they could play him and Holmgren together. And also they could play Hartenstein over Holmgren to some extent. But you're probably not going to get Chet less than 28 minutes no matter what. So I don't know. There's the upper band for Hartenstein is still probably playing alongside Holmgren. And it just feels like a lot of Hartenstein ownership. I would hope he could be really productive in a short burst, but he hasn't been in the series at all yet. So it's hard for me to love this ownership, but I am getting a ton of Hartenstein. And I guess technically right now he'd be a splash play of the day. I just hopefully that communicates my feeling about the play well enough. Lou Dort, especially at captain. I just fucking 10% of that at captain is not going to be my final exposure. Lou Dort, 41% top 150 for me. That's a lot. 19% for the field. Dort last game put up 35.8 minutes, probably one of his more stable rotational amounts overall he's gotten in the playoffs. For him, it's a good sign to see him consolidating some usage. Again, it probably goes a little bit hand in hand with they're not playing the two bigs too often. But really, I think for Dort, I'm not going to say he's a wheels up play because the usage is barely there overall, and he really doesn't do a ton on the court. But the fact that he's getting 12 minutes more than Cason Wallace, as you can see here on Popcorn Machine, getting a similar amount of minutes to Alex Caruso. Certainly, Aaron Wiggins went down to the rotation like we thought he would last game. Again, felt like a point chasing situation for him last time out. He barely got any shots up, barely succeeded in that game. As a result, didn't get any court time. Dort could lose minutes again to Cason Wallace in particular, to Caruso as well. But I feel like in this series, that's a pretty big cosign on Dort to give him this many minutes. And really in the second half in particular, they kept Dort out there and didn't move away from him. I feel like Dort seems like a reliable play, maybe a little bit of cope for how much exposure I'm getting for him right now. But 41% Dort's what I'm getting in my top 150, Fields at 19. Very big Dort stand. In terms of captain as well, I'm getting 5% Dort, Fields at 2. So team Dort today. We're all out of Dort license plates because I've bought them all. All right, let's sort by value here. Take one more look at things. And some guys that probably will not show based on the raw projection. Thomas Bryant, your best value once again. For him, he had kind of an up and down timeout last time. Played this half a stint. He picked up a foul that was really stupid, and then they just took him out, and that was it. Played him again in the second half, but basically they didn't go to Tony Bradley. Thomas Bryant here did nothing. Played 3 minutes overall. Seems like they're also going small. It's just the part that fucks with me here, and it really is annoying about the playoffs in the NBA more than anything, especially compared to the regular season where rotations are for the most part pretty solid. In the playoffs, it's like, okay, let's say OKC decides, you know what, we want to go bigger. Hartenstein should play more minutes. So they play Hartenstein more. They play him and Holmgren together a good amount, whatever. That would probably mean you get more Thomas Bryant or Tony Bradley out of necessity because it's like, oh, now OKC is going big, so we have to get more Thomas Bryant. The way the series has been going is it's going smaller and smaller, and OKC is willingly playing into it because they go small against Indiana every time. But at a certain point, if it doesn't work, like you just go the opposite way. So like for Thomas Bryant, I don't think he's a good play functionally right now. Even the 5.8 minute projection with how the series has gone, like it wouldn't shock me if you were iced from the rotation entirely and just went Obi Toppin as your backup 5 and a combo of him and Siakam filling in when Turner isn't on the court, basically. But if OKC plays Hartenstein more, Thomas Bryant will play more. So I don't know. I know this doesn't mean like you should play Bryant if you're playing Hartenstein, because then you have two kind of shitty players that could easily crater at a lineup. But I do think in this game, like there is a risk that they entirely kind of shift the way the series has gone so far, which is like every game, it's the big men getting less and less involved. You know, Turner's used to dropping off the cliff this last game being part of that too. If they flip that, Thomas Bryant gets minutes. If they don't flip that, then you probably don't want Bryant, don't want Hartenstein, only Holmgren out of the big men, and Turner as well. Case on Wallace, I say Hartenstein, top values here technically because they are pretty cheap. Wallace, again, getting more minutes would pivot away from Lou Dort, who did seem more reliable last time out, picking up 35 plus. For Hartenstein, we talked enough about him. These guys, not really an exciting play. Case on Wallace, though, does seem to be steadily in rotation at 3,800. That might be enough to get him into a lineup. He's a direct pivot for Benedict Mathurin for sure. And Wallace, I'm getting a 25%, same amount as Mathurin as well. So Case on Wallace, definitely a Mathurin pivot for me. Isaiah Joe, I'm not getting any here. Fields at 9%. He can get hot from 3, but you don't expect that in any given game. He played 4 minutes last time out, hit 2 threes in one stint. For Isaiah Joe, the upside is just him hitting enough to make a lineup for you at 1,600. That works really well. He doesn't seem like he's worth a ton of ownership, and it seems like for me in the sim, I got no Bryant, no Isaiah Joe, which is not making me take these cheap guys in that way. Aaron Nesmith, we talked about. Benedict Mathurin, so think he'll get point chased more than 22% ownership here. In terms of captain ownership, field only expected to play him at 2% too. And I got him at 1% at captain. For Mathurin, I think you got the good game from him last time out. I think that OKC, that's probably goal number 1 to solve for this game, is to make sure Mathurin doesn't get going in the second unit, because that's really single-handedly the reason they lost last game. Even though Halliburton played well, like they got, decent enough non-production out of Siakam and Turner. Like they would have won that game if Mathurin and McConnell weren't great in the second unit. But maybe that's just Indiana. Like if you think Indiana wins the series, I would say playing more Mathurin, playing more McConnell seems logical. Maybe they figured something out here because those guys are really putting up combined 70% usage in the second unit. It's a lot for those guys of Mathurin and McConnell. But I think for Mathurin, just being with the field, a little bit above it feels fine here. I don't need a big stand. And I think trying to really think about if he were to be owned higher than expected, if people were to chase it a little bit, gets a 40%, even 33%. Then you're talking about Case on Wallace being very live as a pivot. And I'm not sold this will be the ownership either. Case on Wallace for 29% ownership, Mathurin for 22.5%. It feels like Mathurin's got to get more after last game. Holmgren, we talked about. Dort, we talked about. Obi Toppin, really mostly live. Siakam were to get in big foul trouble. And Toppin also picking up minutes because of the Pacers going small and OKC going small. That's been the trickle down for him. 5K, some of that value is priced out. I'm surprised I'm getting him this much at 37.3%. I feel like getting him and McConnell at similar amounts seems like a likely thing that I would try to do more so when I'm making my final lineups. And last game, Toppin played 27.8 minutes. So he's definitely benefiting from Thomas Bryant being excised from rotation and Miles Turner not getting big minutes. Like Turner only got 32 last time. You can see here, Obi Toppin, second that Turner comes out, Toppin came in. When Toppin came out for a moment here, I guess they didn't like something he did. They brought in Bryant. Bryant committed to the foul, immediately right back to Obi Toppin. Then when Toppin's out here, it's Miles Turner again. Turner did nothing. They go back to Toppin. And then you get some Turner and Toppin. And for a period here, they went McConnell, Halliburton, Shepherd, Siakam, Nesmith. So they briefly went Siakam at center a little. So yeah, Obi Toppin is benefiting from the center consolidation a little bit. But again, if you get Hartenstein playing more, like it's one of those things where you can't do it easily in a sim. But on like the solver optimizer, boosting Toppin in lineups where you don't have Hartenstein, don't have Thomas Bryant, certainly would be logical. Boosting Thomas Bryant in lineups where you have Hartenstein making it, I think it would be another logical thing to do. Because basically, if you get these guys playing big, people just won't be playing that way because of how the series has gone. And I'm really dwelling on this stuff, but like this is like a weird series. Like it's two coaches who are very smart, and it's a lot of like chess stuff and like game to game. Some things you expect to change, some things you don't, and like it's just the big man thing just kind of surprises me that there hasn't been like more of a, I don't know, more of a conversation point about it. Aaron Wiggins, again, really played like shit last time out. He can certainly get hot again. If he gets hot again, he'll earn more minutes. The 12.5 minute projection, though, feels pretty aggressive. I don't think it's a median outcome. That's if he's playing well, he'll get you like 12 to 15 minutes. But he's got to be really hot shooting. 20% ownership feels like a lot for Aaron Wiggins, but he's 2,800. And if Mathurin fails, maybe one way that happened is that the second unit didn't produce. OKC's second unit did. Wiggins gets there. SGA, some combo of SGA, Jalen Williams, Holmgren get there. Like that. Wiggins will get there more, I think, if OKC's crushing would be my guess. But that's the projections right now. We'll take a quick look at the game-by-game view, but nothing new here. OKC, 116.3 implied points. Indiana, 110.3. We talked about all these guys. Kenrich Williams, 3% as well. I got none of him. Really, the super cheap guys, to me, not coming up in the sim so far. Maybe that changes if the data moves around a little bit, but super cheap guys not on the menu as much today based on the ownership. And frankly, that probably makes it more interesting tournament plays because that's how DFS works. And that's the joy we get to bathe in every single day. Thomas Bryant, not coming up a lot. Ben Shepherd coming up a little bit more for me than Thomas Bryant. Really not a big dumpster dive day. I think Shepherd kind of interesting as a play because people won't be there too much at 11%. But certainly he's the kind of player with the defense he provides. They could want to get him out there more because, again, the series has been playing small. So Shepherd probably more appealing in a lineup, again, without Hartenstein, without Thomas Bryant, without the big men, because it probably means that the game's going small. But that's sort of the overview here. We'll go to Unabated next, see what we have in terms of their data. We'll do a stochastic DFS sim, see what they have without my data involved at all. But show some love if you can, guys. Again, a little bit of an early start here on Friday because I got to get some stuff done. We got to do a best ball stream as well where I do all the best ball sites today. And I also have our kids' end-of-year school party, so that's why we're getting going early. But hit that like button, subscribe. It all goes a long way for me here. Just one guy showing you my work as best I can. And, of course, comparing it to some of the best sources out there, the best tools out there, because that's what the advantage, I think, is of living in 2025. So hopefully you guys can get some good products that make you feel less, less alone in gambling. I think it'll be the goal. And Unabated, a big part of that. 20% off for Unabated, link down below. This is their market-based projections. Their conditional projections definitely offer a little bit more of an edge. And as we talk about a lot here with the NBA Finals having a few days for lines to catch up, and now we also have a few games of data, there's nothing plus EV right now. Based on market-based data for your top books, your pick'em sites, Prize Picks and Underdog, your two main sports books, DraftKings and FanDuel, points bets, nothing plus EV. So that's a downer, but probably an important lesson. I know these videos, I know from having a startup that really was like the product was mostly a lesson about probabilities and betting and how they affect things. People don't want to hear that betting can sometimes be not fun. Seeing no EV on all the points bets, it should speak for itself as to what kind of markets you're in for the NBA Finals. It's just like it's juice to the gills. You're not going to find a lot of inefficiencies. That's how it goes. When we have a ton of data, and also we're at a time period where, much like the NFL, where you have like a bunch of days for the lines to get efficient, people sharp money to come in, bettors to be informed, or sportsbooks to be informed about that. That's sort of how it works for the NBA Finals too, because you have 2 days between games. Isaiah Hartenstein under 7 rebounds, 5.5% EV on Prize Picks. The lines everywhere else, 6.5. So you're getting good EV on that alone. But really the main thing is that this is your only plus EV bet for rebounds. Is Hartenstein under 7 rebounds on Prize Picks. Assists coming up next. Nothing I would take. You want to have a 2% or higher EV generally for a market-based approach. And 1% even, you could talk yourself into in a day where there isn't a ton of bets. 0.5% for Miles Turner under 1.5 assists. If you are a degenerate and you want to lay a lot of juice for a bet that's barely plus EV, you could do that. I would personally not do that, but there you go. Again, we're just going through the process here. It's important to have a process for all the stuff we do, guys. Just grabbing shit willy-nilly, even when the bets aren't here, it's important just to have a frame of reference. Isaiah Hartenstein under 15.5 PRAs. We're getting some negative Hartenstein stuff here, which I get. Look, I really hate the amount of Hartenstein I'm getting, so I certainly don't want to be there either. Under 15.5 PRAs, minus 120 odds on DraftKings gives you a very nice 2.9% EV. So Hartenstein bets on the under looking very good right now. Ben Shepherd over 5.5 PRAs, about 2% EV on that, an underdog and prize picks. So your pick'em sites of Ben Shepherd over looks pretty good. And Obi Toppin under 15.5 PRAs, 1.7% EV. I could take that on DraftKings at minus 110. Not a ton of juice on that. And still about 2% EV. So that's an okay one. That's your undebated bets for today. You'll have more of the conditional projections when they come out at 2:30 p.m. Eastern today. So check out Undebated. Great products on here. I showed you the other day the MLB stuff they have. They have WNBA, PGA, NHL, if you want to do that stuff. Obviously, Stanley Cup Finals still going on. Lots of good tools going on, and WNBA has been doing really well. They put out data about it, which I saw an alert on. I don't want to misquote it. Your WNBA results profiting about $4,800 so far for the first release of WNBA, and then closer to tip-off, putting up $4,300. So for the WNBA data, they're doing a similar thing to what they did for NBA, doing really well with the premium approach there with Justin Fan and his crew. So check out WNBA data if you really want to get, again, and like sometimes it's hard, like profitable gambling is not like the fun version of gambling. It's not placing, necessarily fun kind of parlays all the time. It is getting in hundreds of bets if you can off of premium data sources or stuff like this, market-based approaches where you have obvious differentials and probability and you can kind of cash bets off of that. You just got to get your sample size up, got to be willing to stick with it and do it every day. We're using Undebated, we're using Odds Shopper at Stochastic, which is also linked in the description if you want to get some money off on there. Just my recommendations here, if you're trying to do something for the summer, if you're not like me and you're hopping into best ball immediately and gambling that way instead, trying to get money off of like sample size, larger sample size of these data and these tools is going to be your main thing. Really important. That's it. Let's go to Stochastic for the last stage of our journey here. Build some DFS lineups. And it's funny because like it always sounds like it's like marketing spiel or something where it's like you got to bet more to get the results. But like in reality, that's the thing. If you follow, Stochastic does a great job with the my pal Greg Ehrenberg, his bankroll threads where they've been posting bets from Odds Shopper for I think 180 days as of today. And it's like over 180 days, he took $1,000 bankroll to an $1,800 bankroll, and that's placing what 40, 50 bets a day. And some of the guys who are on staff there are placing 600 bets a day that are identified as slight differentials in market-based value. You have to get a lot of action down. And it's like, it's a little bit tedious. It still doesn't mean like you could do it with $100. You get down 100 bets in a day for $1 and that's it. I mean, you wouldn't want to do that bankroll wise, but you know what I'm saying? But you have to get volume up. Like that's really the main thing with any sort of betting enterprise. Like it takes a lot of time. I was doing it a lot last summer with our Probably product and like in last 2 summers really. Because I had to do it just to keep up with things. But for these products out there, it's like a job. Like and that's why a lot of people don't do it and do it well, That's me, end of season here. We can talk about the meta game a little bit. We'll do the Stochastic portion of things. And again, show some love if you can, hit the like button, subscribe. I'm showing up here doing the work here, not paid by anybody for this doing this because I made a promise to see it through, and we're going to see it through as best we can. NBA schedule next week too. I think we have a couple games in the week as the Sims finish loading. Yeah, so if we have this game today, then there's no weekend games. Game 5 is Monday. Game 6 would be Thursday, and then Game 7 would be Sunday. So if we do go to a Game 6, we'll have 2 videos next week. If we go to a Game 7, we'll have 2 videos next week. If we go to a Game 5, we'll have 1 video next week. That's how that looks right now. All right, your final results here, your top ROI lineups according to Stochastic. And again, what they do here is they built 5,000 lineups that have to compete 10,000 times. If you're not familiar with what we do here on the stream and what Stochastic does with their tools. Number 1 lineup part. Okay, so Stochastic is here with me on it. I still don't feel great about it. Hartenstein at captain, Alex Caruso, Benedict Mathurin, Chet Holmgren makes the lineup with Hartenstein at captain. Do you think they'll play 2 bigs if Hartenstein gets there? So like I could see that being a pathway. Jalen Williams, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You're getting in really good players here. Mathurin in this kind of build where it does seem OKC dominant does mean that they probably try to get his bench scoring going, maybe even plays a little bit of a blowout. So I can live with him being this build. 5-1 OKC, getting the onslaught build for our NFL DFS fans. That all makes sense. Hartenstein and captain feels like a really narrow outcome based on what we've seen so far in the series. Chet Holmgren at captain at number 2, Ben Shepherd, Benedict Mathurin, Jalen Williams, Miles Turner, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So we're fading Hartenstein here. Holmgren at captain, cheap price tag for him. That all works. Holmgren again at number 3, Benedict Mathurin right behind him. Hartenstein, Obi Toppin, Pascal Siakam, SGA. So fading Halliburton, it looks like up top so far. Number 4, Jalen Williams, Ben Shepherd, Isaiah Hartenstein makes this one. Pascal Siakam, SGA, TJ McConnell. So pretty well balanced here, getting McConnell instead of Mathurin. Those guys both went nuts together last game, but I do think fundamentally if McConnell plays really well, it could mean that Mathurin gets less shots up. So I can live with that. At number 5, SGA captain, Mathurin, Kason Wallace, Isaiah Hartenstein again, Lou Dort, Tyrese Halliburton. So Halliburton finally makes one here. But a lot of Hartenstein. So, okay, Stochastic with me on Hartenstein. Doesn't feel great, but at least I'm not alone right now. Benedict Mathurin, captain, your number 1 guy right now, ROI-wise. 10% ROI for Mathurin, captain. And as we all know from Showdown rules, when a guy just did this last time out, he's absolutely going to do it again. So Mathurin, one last slate as captain, putting up a ton of points off the bench, real life points off the bench, and fantasy points. Here, Stochastic is like, just give me that guy again. I'm not sold on that being the concept here. I don't think it's gonna be my approach tonight, but Stochastic Sims love it. And that's a really positive ROI as well for him at captain. 10% higher positive ROI. Benedict Mathurin in the flex is number 2. Ben Shepherd, number 3. TJ McConnell in the flex, number 4. TJ McConnell at captain, number 5. Chet Holmgren at captain, number 6. Alex Caruso at captain, number 7. So you're getting the cheaper captains here coming up a good amount as your highest ROI guys. Overall highest exposed guys, all flex. SGA in the flex, 51% fields at 50, holding hands with SGA basically. Chet Holmgren, 46% fields at 39. Chet Holmgren's too cheap. I think that's right. And again, I'm not a Holmgren fan, but 8,200 is a little bit too cheap for this guy that's playing, at least based on the series so far, your primary setter role as a starter. TJ McConnell, 43% in the flex, fields at 24, so really big stand favoring McConnell. Stochastic getting Mathurin a good amount as well, 39% fields at 22. So they're just going again. The build here of the same thing that happened last game hits again. I think just playing it a little bit different here, playing the starters more, playing your Nesmith, Halliburton more if you can. Miles Turner, Siakam still there at not unreasonable ownership. Like there's ways that McConnell and Mathurin don't hit, even though the price tags are reasonable for how well they played last game. Jalen Williams, 39% for me, 39% in this top 150. Fields at 41, not a big stand there. Halliburton, 35% in the flex, Fields at 32, so a little bit more Halliburton. And Hartenstein, 32%, Fields at a rounded up 32, so not a big Hartenstein stand, but Stochastic does like Hartenstein overall. Captain-wise, highest exposures are SGA, 22%, Fields at 24, so not a big stand there. Holmgren, 17%, Fields at 11. That's a pretty big stand. Jalen Williams, 17%, Fields at 15. A little bit of a positive stand, not a huge one. Halliburton, Stochastic flat with the field, 8% and 8%. Caruso, 7% and 3.5. So definitely a favorable stand for Caruso, but not a big one. Siakam, they're under the field on. Turner, they're a little bit above the field on, but 5% basically. Not really big stands at captain. Overall, your highest leverage guys, the ones they want you to get more of, they want you to get more McConnell in the flex by 19%. Mathurin in the flex as well. Really, the two big stands here are the in-and-out bench scorers, assuming that they're going to need to get more going there. Ben Shepherd, 15% more in the flex. Alex Caruso, 8% more in the flex. Holmgren, 7% more in the flex. Holmgren also 6% more at captain. So really big favorable stand, I would say, in terms of Stochastic must-plays based on what the sim looks like. McConnell flex, Mathurin flex, Holmgren anywhere. And Caruso at captain coming in 3% more in the field. Your biggest fades for Stochastic, Aaron Nesmith in the flex. You're only playing 14% fields at 31. So really anti-stand on Nesmith, 17% less in the field. Aaron Wiggins, 15% less in the flex. He's not going to be too highly owned, but certainly last game out showed the downside of him. He could get really hot, put up a ton of points. He could also do absolutely nothing, and that's what Wiggins did last game. Pascal Siakam, 8% less in the flex. Thomas Bryant, 6% less in the flex. You're really not playing him at all. Nesmith, the captain, Stochastic doesn't want to play him at all in the top 150. Kason Wallace, 4% less in the flex. Still getting him about quarter of a lineup, so. And Aaron Nesmith, 21%, Fields 25, so about 4% less there. Really, the Pacers bench guys and Chet Holmgren, I think, would be my key takeaways here, along with the fact that Mathurin and captain, you're only playing him 5% at captain, Fields at 2, but Stochastic, very high ROI for the Mathurin captain lineups, like 10% captain for Mathurin. Again, Fields point chasing given the fact that it just happened, but can't ignore what the data is saying from Stochastic Sim here. So they like Mathurin a good amount. That's your industry must plays, guys. I'm going to give you my splash plays before we do one last run through the plugs. First of all, Stochastic just saw all their data for free here. Their sim tools for free here. But if you want to see them updated throughout the day when more data comes in, when they do filter things a little bit better over the course of a day, you can check it out. 15% off link down below. If for NBA, you probably want only a weekly package because you might only get a couple more games. For MLB, though, it's still 15% off. For MMA, still 15% off. PGA, still 15% off. You can build shitty Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele lineups like I built, fucking not the move in the US Open, where I think every player in my lineups that I put in like 2 lineups. So like, it's not a lot. Every player in my lineups I think has like bogeys and more. Like nobody is under par. So it's really not going well. But that was me choosing a lineup from the sim. If I took the top line, probably would have done better. Anyway, Stochastic 15% off. Great plug. Link down below. And do check it out. It does support the show and you pay for a membership. A debated 20% off link down below as well. Again, great tools on there for betting. If you want to get in there more, got to strap it and do the work like we talked about. But betting is a volume-based sport. Use the best data and you will get there using volume intelligently. And join the Discord as well. $5 to join. Link in the description. You guys know the deal here if you want to support the show. And in particular, if you want me to do MLB shit, I need to see people join the Discord at a lot higher rate. So if you want to see a version of this video for MLB, I would recommend joining the Discord now because otherwise I'm probably just going to do best ball during the summer is how I'm feeling right now. Splash plays for the day, though. Unfortunately, I think it has to be Hartenstein. Really will feel better about that play if I were to hear that Hartenstein might start. I think that would be a much more appealing play overall. But Hartenstein just projects too well for a guy getting 19.5 minutes. I still think you want to be at least with the field on him, even though me getting like 50% in the flex was not really where I want to be. But like the data makes him look like a very strong play. And I do think in that prism, he's worth being with the field on. So I will make him a splash play, even though I've vocalized my reservations enough. Besides him, Halliburton's a splash play again. Lou Dort, I think a splash play today. Neesmith, still kind of a splash play. Obi Toppin, a decent splash play too. I'm going to be above the field on him. Low on Siakam, low on Turner. If you want to fade me playing those guys today, probably a great way to do that. And the cheap guys too. If you want to fade me, play the cheap guys. You know, that's sort of the way I would try to do that. Trying to get away from me. Thanks for you guys hanging out. Whether you're watching live or after the fact, doesn't really matter to me. I appreciate you guys who are watching this point of the season. Hit that like button before you go. Subscribe before you go. And I'll be back, I guess, on Monday for another game here. So no games over the weekend. Back for game 5 on Monday and hopefully game 6 as well later in the week. So I'll see you guys again soon. I'll also be on the on the Splash Play channel, not on Stochastic for the next few days. On Splash Play today, best ball drafts on all 3 big platforms coming up to do in about 17 minutes if you're watching live. So go watch that too. See you guys soon. Enjoy your day. It's always money time here. Gamble responsibly. And good luck. Bye-bye. Enjoy your weekends, guys. Happy Father's Day too to all the dads. All right. See ya.